thank you all for being here. Mr. Bowersox, I'm not sure if you worked with someone who helped me get to where I am today. Dr. Janice Voss was a NASA astronaut who called my hometown of Rockford, Illinois, her hometown. In the 1990s and the 2000s, she flew on numerous shuttle missions and helped inspire me as a kid to learn and continue to look up. She flew on Space Shuttle Discovery, as others as well, which makes it appropriate that one of her flight suits is on display at the Discovery Center in Rockford, Illinois today. So I do want to continue learning a little bit more about spacesuits. Given the safety concerns and the age, are we on target with respect to technology and time to meet the demands as we look beyond the ISS mission?
First, I want to thank you for mentioning Janice. I think the world of that person. I can remember when she certified me to operate the arm on the Space Shuttle and International Space Station, and I miss her. But for our future astronauts, we want to make sure that all of our people will be able to use the new suits, that they'll fit everyone, that everybody will have good function. We also want to make sure that they're affordable. So we're looking at trying to increase the reliability and reduce the cost of the technology that we use. And we're seeing great progress with our partners.
Dr. Furl, I'll turn to you. Your written statement refers to the critical need for biological and physical science research in space to better inform both life in low Earth orbit, but also during our exploration into deep space. Can you elaborate on how your biological and physical science research and those of your colleagues will help enable human exploration to the moon and then beyond to Mars?
Thank you very much for the question. It's an enjoyable thing to think about, because how we get there, how we enable ourselves to get there, and how we can do it in a way that is both doable and sustainable is key to our ability to do it, and also a key point in our decadal survey. We've recommended, in fact, 2 large-scale campaigns in this area of science that deal with the following kinds of science. How do we take an ecology with us, our microbes, our plants, and our other organisms, to sustain ourselves over the long term in wherever it is we decide to go? How do we create a mini Earth, one that doesn't need resupply? That's a big body of science that has to do with creating long-term sustainability in space. Another campaign that we've recommended is called Matrices, but it's basically the same idea. How do we change our manufacturing concepts and the science behind our manufacturing so that we can reuse what we take with us the first time, repurpose that into something else for the second time, and the third time, and the fourth, and the fifth. Moreover, when we do get to the moon, how do we manage the uptake of resources there in a way that services us as humans inside the habitats that we will build? So our science underpins all of those concepts with regard to sustainability, in addition to the plain biological questions of what happens when you take a terrestrial organism off the surface of the Earth.
Thank you for that. NASA plans to be one of the many users of commercial space stations. To Dr. Dittmar and Mr. Taylor, your companies will presumably need non-governmental customers to support your stations. How have you begun developing a pipeline of groups that are interested in using commercial space stations? And I'll begin with you, Dr. Dittmar.
Thank you for the question. Well, as I mentioned in my oral testimony and written testimony, one of the key approaches that we've used to begin developing that market are the private astronaut missions in partnership with NASA. We began by flying individuals in our first mission, AX-1, that basically bought the ticket to go to space. But as those missions have progressed, they have increasingly revealed to all of us and to NASA the interest of international entities to participate in human spaceflight, including entities that have never been before. In Acts 2, we flew Saudi Arabia, which, although it had flown representatives, flew the first Arab woman in space and did tremendous outreach in that country. In Acts 3, which we just flew, Turkey and Sweden flew for the first time. And we had an Italian, although Italy has flown before, the Air Force gave us Colonel Villade, who had a long history of training to fly. He was excited to go to space. So what we're learning is that international other countries are very interested in our commercial platforms, in their use. We've signed a memorandum of agreement with ESA to continue to explore opportunities there. We've signed other memorandum of agreement they're all public, and I could direct you to the record, but New Zealand and others. So we're finding global interest in doing science, research, technology development in space manufacturing, as well as flying humans into space.
Dr. Taylor, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Similar to what Mary Lynn just said, we're seeing huge international demand for the station. One of the things that I think is important to point out is in the case of low Earth orbit, these commercial stations coming online are not going to address demand, they're going to create demand. Mm-hmm. What do I mean by that? If you look at the constraints on the International Space Station today to do science, a lot of that is constrained by astronaut time. And astronaut time is spent in large degree to performing maintenance. So imagine a brand new commercial space station with minimal maintenance where 100% of the astronaut time can be dedicated to research. And it's a less frictional, it's a frictionless transaction to actually get research done. So a lot of the biopharma companies who would like to do drug development on the ISS see this as a huge opportunity to accelerate their plans. As Mary Lynn pointed out, international partners, we've signed several MOUs with countries as well. I believe the UN shows 90 countries with space agencies now. That number used to be around 20. So there's a huge appetite for international space commerce. And this goes back to the point I made in my oral testimony. We want those nations to gravitate towards a Western-led platform and not a Chinese-led platform.